Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. To a special edition of Whitetail Rendezvous. And we're traveling up to Loup City, Nebraska. Now, I've got a couple friends up there that own Rackology. If you don't know what Rackology is, well, if it's a double helix, it's a double helix chromosome. Is that true, Jason? I'm talking to Jason Obermiller and Eric Fitzgerald. Eric's an agronomist, been in business a long time, and then Jason teaches school, and they got together a few years back and created some products, and now their business is growing. And I've asked them to be part of the Whitetail Rendezvous Spring Series, talking about land management. Guys, welcome to the show this afternoon, and we're going to talk the next 30 minutes or so about why land management. What's so special about that?
You bet.
Well, appreciate you having us on here, Bruce. It's great to visit with you again and see a familiar face again here. And we, I guess, when it comes to land management, I think that a lot of people don't understand how important it is, especially if you own or lease or even get the rights to hunt a piece of property, and how important land management is to your success if you're hunting. And it doesn't matter if it's white-tailed deer, pheasants, turkeys, or if you just want to have an abundance of wildlife out there. Land management is crucial. This day and age, we're seeing a lot more land being developed, especially in our neck of the woods, and it's taken some of the habitat out. And so that leaves less areas for wildlife to go and to use as their home range. And so something as simple as a food plot or setting up a feeding station in the off season could really increase your odds of harvesting the buck that you want to harvest, or just going out with your family and seeing wildlife. Land management is crucial, and it can be something simple. And that's what we're trying to educate at Rackology is how simple something could be. Do it yourself, and to produce the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I know, like in my classroom, I got, growing up here in a rural area, I've got a whole bunch of kids that are, farm kids, and we've got a lot of places in this area where they plant right up to the fence rows, right? And you get asked all the time, how come we don't see any pheasants? Where's the wildlife? And a big thing that I point out, and I do this carefully, of course, is when you plant up to the fence rows and it's all a monoculture like corn, once the season's over and it's been combined and it's gone, there's really no habitat left for those deer or anything to really hide in. Not only that, if you have a little strip of grass along the fence, what occurs is it's called the edge effect. So if you do have any birds or game that's using that grass for cover, coyotes and predators they've got a very narrow area to hide in. And so it prevents them from, having any type of hiding, any type of escape. And so, when we get into land management, talking in one of my wildlife classes, we discuss this. How can we manage our land for wildlife, but at the same time, accommodate what brings a lot of money into this community? That's agriculture. And they can both work very well together so long as both sides are willing, to do a little give and take. And there's people that, that land management doesn't necessarily mean shooting 160 or 180 inch deer. Their land management is, we just want to see deer. We want to see healthy does and fawns. We want to see birds, turkeys and stuff. And, we might be talking with them about putting in native grass stands, and, Eric, they deal a lot with the native grass seeds and everything that, that he works with, farmers and ranchers around here to do that. And so, a big thing is we kind of start to find out from people when we talk to them is, what do you want to accomplish? Because each person has their own idea of what land management is. Just like, you can preach to the neighbor that you need to let these deer walk, or we'll never shoot a 180 inch deer, a 160 inch deer, and their enjoyment, because they might only have 1 week out of the whole year to hunt, and they're not worried about going out and shooting a 180 inch deer. They want to be able to just go out and enjoy it. And you know what, if they shoot a 120 incher, that's great for them, because it's all about the experience. And so, we have a wide array of clients and customers that, you when you talk to them, you have to kind of feel out what do they want, what's their goals. And then that's kind of how we, with Rackology, that's kind of how we have to, curtail what we suggest to them to do with their land, because it may not all be about creating this giant buck sanctuary. It might be a number of things that they want to do and enjoy on their land,
How do you find out what they want? So I'm sitting here and I got, I'm not a farmer, but my family left some land, and I do like rural America. And so I go, yeah, gee, there's some deer out there, and I'd like more deer. I'd like some turkeys. I'd sure as heck like to shoot coyotes, and I'd like to bring my grandkids out there, but I don't know anything, so I got a piece of ground I don't know a lot about, because I haven't grown up for decades on it, as some people, your neighbors have. So, that type of guy calls you up. What kind of questions do you ask him?
Well, like I think Jason hit on it. First is kind of like you explained. If you didn't know what he was really wanting, he called you, said, "Hey, I got some ground here, and I've got grandkids that love to hunt. Maybe like to fish or pheasant hunt, or come out and coyote hunt or something." And I guess the biggest thing is the conversation you have with that person, and really get down to the nitty gritty on what they are looking for and what they're hoping for. Because there are some times where you get asked questions that, there's some things that just aren't possible on what exactly they want, but we could come up with a great alternative that, if that case arises, that we could facilitate what they're looking for. And so that's where the conversation really starts, and getting to know the person, and asking permission maybe to go out with them to kind of take a look at the ground. And because that's where a lot of the questioning starts and stuff. But those type of guys, I guess we really welcome, because Jason talked about giving back and doing something land. It's scary how many farmsteads used to be on a quarter section in the area we live, and now it's dwindled down. We used to have, 8 home places on one section of ground, and now you're lucky to have one every 2 sections. So, or less. And so those little home sections used to give a lot of tree cover, and weeds would grow around them places. And I remember we used to just turn hogs out and let them knock the weeds down. But, by then, whether it be pheasants or deer, had been utilizing that. So getting out there and conversing with that customer or that landowner, and really knowing what they want, looking at the ground and knowing what's possible, and then come up with a game plan from there.
Sometimes we have people that call that, they don't know what they want. They'll be like, I've got this. In fact, we're actually dealing with a Rackology customer right now that's got about 300 acres of ground, doesn't know where to start. And, we'll talk about what we do with them here in this next the next segment, when we actually get into the what we do. But, we're in that process now of he don't know what he wants to do. He's got this ground. He doesn't know how to make it any better. And so now the tables kind of turn, and now we're the ones that are kind of asking him the questions as far as, what do you want to accomplish? What are you willing, if we recommend something, how far are you willing to go as far as, whether it's removing trees for food plots, or whether it's, clear cutting an area, cross cutting an area, or just laying down trees to act as a screen to go into a stand. And, what about crops on your ground? Is a farmer renting you guys' ground? And just finding out kind of what they're dealing with. And then we start to suggest things like, because a lot of times they'll say, if it was your ground, what would you do? And I really like that, because it feels like you've got a clean slate, and you can actually really suggest some things. Whereas you've got some landowners that they know exactly what they want, and those are easy too, because they know exactly what you want. Give them a few suggestions, and you're on your way. Then you have the people that are in the middle that they may not even be landowners. I keep saying landowners, because most of the people we work with are renting ground, or the neighbor lets them hunt. And they may say, well, we've got all this ground, but the neighbor will only let me put a food plot in this little spot, or, won't let us cut down any trees, or is, very particular about where we put tree stands. And so, our land management stretches from, it's that wide. It's from being really handcuffed on some properties to what a person can do, to having the whole shooting match as far as what we can suggest.
I think wrapping everything up with that is that conversation you have with that person, whether you know them. We make the assumption if we know somebody, we kind of know what they want, but really having that conversation with them to know what they're looking for. And I guess, one thing that's important about land management and what we do is, I'll be the last one to admit that I know everything about soil chemistry or agronomy. And I know Jason will be the last one to admit that he knows everything about biology, because there's always things to learn. And we consider Rackology as an ever-evolving machine, and going to seminars and just like what you're doing with podcasts to get the education out there. There's always education to soak in, and there's always guys trying different things, whether it be cover crops, a different species in a food plot that's working really good for protein that might be helping, whether it be something to help with, help with some of the disease issues that deer or pheasants or turkeys might have. Going to different land management seminars, hearing from other people, because you got to stay humble in this business, and you really got to soak everything in, because we're living in an age when it comes to hunting and stuff that's really growing rapidly, and deer management is growing rapidly. I think people are knowing the importance of it finally, but I like to immerse myself, and I know Jason does too, in research, learning, and it's fun. I mean, going out to somebody's place that's trying something new, taking notes and saying, okay, this is something that we can incorporate from the agricultural world into helping deer management. And so I think that's huge, and that's important, that when we talk to people, that we let them know that, we're always trying new things that have been researched a little bit and that have been somewhat proven, but we're not just going to throw something out there new. We're going to really fine tune what we learn and what we see and what works in our geography, or the geography this person is at. It's coming forth to us, to Rackology, to say, what do you guys think? Because if people value our opinion, I think that we need to do the due diligence in being researched and ever evolving. And I think that's different than some other things out there, but that's what we kind of pride ourselves in.
And you have to also be able to take no and maybe for an answer too. I mean, we're one of the landowners we work with. Just this last winter, we were having a conversation about what are some things we should do this upcoming year. And one of my suggestions after seeing the amount of deer on this property was we need to take some does out. And me being the biologist, I know what our ratios should look like. I know what is going to be healthy for the deer herd. But ultimately, when it boils down to it, the person has to remember the landowner who's actually controlling that property. if they're not comfortable, because they don't always understand. They think if you go out there and take out a whole bunch of does, they like seeing all those deer, and which is great to have all those deer. But when you start talking carrying capacity, because of our agricultural community, throughout the growing season, you create a false carrying capacity. We've got all these crops in the field, the doe throwing all these fawns, and then come wintertime, they're all starving because, what do they got to eat? And not only with, managing it for carrying capacity, by thinning out some of the does, you think if your property can hold, let's say, 80 deer on this whole place, every deer that's on there is taking up a spot. And if all the spots are filled with does mostly, you don't have many spots left with bucks. And bucks have kind of got a big, what do I want to call it, a comfort zone. And so, one buck may occupy a 2 to 3 doe area, let's say, as far as like feeling comfortable. And so by taking some of the does out, you open up area, space, for those other bucks to move in. I've had people ask me how, I watch these deer, they're a year and a half, and then this buck is 2.5, and then they all disappear at 3.5. How come none of my deer are sticking around? None of my bucks are sticking around. Well, if you've got a high doe ratio and a low to low buck ratio, those younger bucks, when they get older and they start feeling the pressure of being crowded, they go to some place where it's not as crowded. And so some landowners, they don't understand that, and they don't want to take out a bunch of deer. I'm not saying you're going out there and just laying a bunch of them down, but there's a way to manage your property, as far as, harvesting specific does, certain deer, that can create a better place for, your bucks, if that's what you're wanting to manage for. But we have to also be cognizant of the landowners, desires, as far as they don't want to see a bunch of does get killed. They like to go out there in the, December and see 200 head of deer on their cornfield, which, and so that's one of the things we just have to realize, to each their own. And sometimes our suggestions are not what they want to do. And then so
we got to respect that.
Yep. And then plan B is, okay, here's what we can do then with your property, with the number of does and everything that you've got on it.
And I guess Jason brings up a good point as far as land management too. And, he was talking about this land manager or this landowner having this issue with all these does out there and going out at an hour before sundown and seeing, just astronomical amount, and the neighbors all see that. But you also got to, talk to the grower about, if they're managing their own land, any information we can get on the neighbors, not to be nosy, but to know what they're doing, I think is important too. If they know what their neighbors are doing, it makes our job a lot easier and takes a lot of guesswork out, because what we're trying to do is capture the bucks that are 2 and 3 years old that are moving and holding them up in an area that they're going to like to, they're going to have bedding areas, some corridors, some, feel safe and secure in some areas. And so that's something that I think when you have that initial conversation with why land management, what can I do, is, hey, do you know your neighbors that well and what they're doing? Because that could make or break what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm hearing from you guys and listeners. When you think about asking somebody to, take a look at your property, you got to set and define what you want, because it's your land.
Yes.
And the deer, you're housing these deer and, on your land. And you've got to decide what's important to you. And the biggest thing you can do is whoever you talk to in Rackology. How does somebody get a hold of the guys at Rackology?
Well, I think the best way to get a hold of us is via our email, which is rackologyllc@gmail.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook, but a lot of times you don't see the questions that people ask in a timely manner. Our email we do. And so that's usually where we get a lot of our questions, and we answer a lot of our questions is via our email. And when you email us, you talk to Jason or I, which is a lot different than some other companies out there. But when you email Rackology, you're talking to one of us two, and we're responding with what we know and what we've seen in the past, and trying to get some well thought out answers for the questions that we get.
Yeah, so it again, your email address
is rackologyllc@gmail.com.
And so it's on you, listeners. If you're considering this, and land sakes, there's plenty of people that want to be land managers for you, but you have to figure out, you have to do your due diligence. It's just like if you're going out west or any place and wanting to go elk hunting or deer hunting Midwest with an outfitter, you got to do due diligence. Nobody else is going to do it for you. I don't care how many articles, how many TV shows, how many, talk to somebody that's been on their ground, and we'll be talking. That's a great segue to the next segment. We're not there yet, but and it's your job to figure out what you want to see on not only next year, but the year after year after year after, because this isn't just a one and done. And when we were in the food plot segment, we'll talk about the food plot, throw and grow. Well, that can work, but land management isn't, well, I'm going to do some hinge cutting and I'll stream improvement and impoundment and call it good. No, that's just one tiny, tiny, tiny part, as I understand. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
What land management is. And so, with the last couple of minutes, we got 5 or 6 minutes left on the segment. Tell the listeners how they can ask you the right questions or give you the right information so you can talk to their needs. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I think the biggest thing, when you email in is, and you can also get the email address off of our website, which is rackology.org, rackology.org. But when you email in, I guess, if you don't ask the question, the first question we'll ask, is, what do you want to accomplish on your land? What's your goals? What do you want to do? I mean, a lot of times our emails are about our products, like what about this and what about this product? But if you email in as far as like questions about, land management questions or any questions, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I tell my students this all the time because, a lot of times when we want to learn, a thing that really hinders learning is our fear of somebody thinking we're stupid, or this is a dumb question, or they're going to think I'm an idiot for asking this. I ask dumb questions when I go to the doctor all the time because I'm not a doctor and there's questions I want to know, or, I'm not a master at agronomy. And there's times when I ask Eric stuff about plants that, I may feel like maybe I'm stupid asking this question, but that's not my forte. And so, that's one of the biggest things is not to worry about how, what your question sounds like. Once we get that email, if we don't understand what you're asking, we'll shoot you an email back, and ask you, is this what you're talking about or whatever. And, there's a lot of times that once the day's over and I'm done in the science classroom and he's done doing agronomy, I might even email and say, hey, give me a call after 4 o'clock.
And that's, I think, huge because, again, we're both busy, but we're not busy enough. I mean, we're busy, but we will take time out for our customers. And people are serious. Now, there's times we'll get people just throwing a question out there that, they're not really serious about land management or what they're doing. But the serious ones, you could really pick those guys out. And with those guys, we'll answer every question. But with the guys that are really serious, we have no problem with them calling us. I mean, I'm a verbal guy. I can't text very well, and I can't type worth a darn. But when I talk to somebody, I can really hear them on the other end and know exactly what they're passionate about. And you can't see that with an email sometimes. So, we encourage people that if they're really serious and they're really wanting to know some answers and they're getting serious about what they're going to do on their ground and how we could help them, to give us a ring. Our phone numbers are on the email or on the website as well. And so we entertain people calling us if they need some further explanation of what we're doing. Yeah, so, but yeah, I guess to really put it in perspective is to know what they kind of want. Ask us any question they have, what our thoughts are, and if they've got some aerial photography, if they've got something that they could share with us to help us assess the area, what they want. And that is always a huge help too, if they have that access, if they have Google Earth, if they have, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. I talked to you last week about a food plot or what I could do to improve my whitetail herd here. Here's our land, and this is what we're dealing with. And that's a huge help with us to see that. So,
well, with that point, great segue into the second segment, which is going to be on site, walking the ground. But even before you do that, even before you go out, we'll be talking about the prep work you do, the different technology and digital resources, GIS and all that. that's readily available today. I mean, more than ever before. So even before you guys get on the ground, you've got a sense of what's there. There's always some surprises, as we talked about earlier. So with that, we're going to take a break, folks. We're going to move on to land management with Rackology. Course 102 in a blip, and just stay tuned to Whitetail Rendezvous. And thanks, guys. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Bruce.
Hey, folks, a special edition of Whitetail Rendezvous is coming. I've asked 3 companies, Land & Legacy, Rackology, and Grandpa Ray Outdoors, to be part of a series on land management and food plots. So the next few episodes, about 18 of them, in fact, are going to be about either land management or food plots. Why? Because people have been asking me a lot of questions. So I went out and chatted with some guys, and Adam Keith and Matt Dye from Land & Legacy is joining the crew. And at Rackology, we have Jason Obermiller and Eric Fitzgerald. And rounding out the team is Grandpa Ray Outdoors with John O'Brien. Each of them is going to bring a different flavor on what is land management, what are food plots, why you need them, the pros and cons. So listen up to the next series, and I sure hope you like them. If you like them, let me know. If you don't like them, let me know what I can do better. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.